Hello, how are you? Lines that made literature. New series that we've started on our Vallath channel. I have done one video, and this is my second video of this series. The first video was based on Gulliver's Travels, all the important lines that are a favorite in exams. Today, the line which is favorite of English literature exams is taken from A Far Cry from Africa. This poem was composed by Derek Walcott, and the line that I'm talking about is 3, 2, 1. I who am poisoned with the blood of both, where shall I turn, divided to the wane? You have to remember these lines. If it is asked, these lines are taken from which poem or who has written these lines, in what context are these lines written, you need to know. A Far Cry from Africa by Derek Walcott. The line is, I who am poisoned with the blood of both, where shall I turn, divided to the wane? Get ready now to know about this poem. What does it speak? A Far Cry from Africa, published in the year 1962 by Derek, who lived from 1930 to 2017. This poem refers directly to the Mau Mau uprising in Kenya. When Kenya was under British rule, the Kenyans, the native Kenyans who were called Kikuyu was a tribe. So Kikuyus revolted against the Britishers, and they led to this uprising or rebellion, which was called the Mau Mau Rebellion. So this poem talks about this Mau Mau rebellion, which led to the deaths of almost 10,000 Mau Maus. And also, so many police officers and soldiers were required to stop this rebellion. Okay, so the backdrop is the Mau Mau uprising in Kenya, which was a violent conflict between the Kenyans Kikuyu and the Britishers who were colonizers in Kenya during the 1950s. The poem talks about Derek's internal conflict. The poet is Derek. Now, see, Derek had mixed descent, which means his blood had both African blood and European blood, because of which he didn't know where to show the loyalty towards the Africans who were dying or towards the Britishers who were trying to colonize the entire world. Okay? So this poem talks about the poet's or Derek Walcott's internal conflict and divided loyalties because of his mixed African and European heritage. The poem is divided into 3 stanzas. What I have thought is, I am going to read one stanza and then explain you the meaning. Read the second stanza and then explain you the meaning. And likewise. Easy. Let's start with stanza number 1. Here are all the lines from stanza number 1 of A Far Cry from Africa. A wind is ruffling the tawny pelt of Africa. Kikuyu, quick as flies, batten upon the blood streams of the veldt. Corpses are scattered through a paradise. Only the worm, kernel of carrion, cries, waste no compassion on these separate dead. Statistics justify and scholars seize the salience of colonial policy. What is that to the white child hagged in bed, to savages expandable as Jews? Listen now to the explanation. A gentle breeze stirs the yellow-brown landscape of Africa, as if lifting the very fur of the continent. Here, African landscape is being compared to a furry animal. Members of Kenya's Kikuyu tribe, quick and determined like flies, cling to the lifeblood of the grasslands. All around, there are only dead bodies. Why? Because of the Mau Mau uprising. Dead bodies lie scattered across what should have been paradise. Africa is a paradise, but not like this. Dead bodies are lying around. In the midst of this decay and corpses, only a worm seemed to speak. Who is this worm? The master of rotting flesh. Who is this worm? A white colonel, a British officer. He looks at the dead bodies and declares, why bother mourning each of these dead? Now, Derek says people try to rationalize colonial violence with cold statistics, senseless statistics. Intellectuals argue back and forth, cherry picking facts to make sense of the conflict. That yes, the whites have to rule the blacks. It is the white man's burden to civilize the other people. No, but listen, Derek asks, what value do these distant academic debates hold for a white child brutally murdered in bed? This is an instance or an incident which happened during the Mau Mau rebellion. The Mau Maus or Kenyans killed a little white child in bed. So now, where do these statistics go when you talk about the white child who died in bed? If the colonel is saying, forget about these black dead bodies, why is he not saying, forget about this white dead body? Or for the native Africans dehumanized, treated like expendable lives, lives which don't matter, which are like excess baggage. As if these lives, these African lives, were just like Jews in Nazi camps. How Jews were treated. They were not even humans. They were not treated like humans in the Nazi camps. That is how Africans are treated who are lying down dead here in the African landscape. With this, stanza number 1 is done. Listen now, the text of stanza number 2 from a far cry from Africa. Threshed out by beaters, the long rushes break in a white dust of ibises, whose cries have wheeled since civilization's dawn from the parched river or beast teeming plain. The violence of beast on beast is read as natural law, but upright man seeks his divinity by inflicting pain. Delirious as these wild beasts, his wars dance to the tightened carcass of a drum, while he calls courage still that native dread of the white peace contracted by the dead. These lines are easy when explained, okay? Don't worry that they are difficult. They are very self explanatory. Listen to the meaning of stanza number 2. Farmers move through the tall grass, shaking it loose. The stalks or the stem of the plants, they snap, that is, they move, they make a sound, releasing a cloud of pale dust. But this is not dust at all. It is the sudden flight of these birds that are ibises. It's a flight of these white ibises startled into the sky. These long legged birds have risen like this for ages in Africa since the dawn of civilization, crying out as they soar above shallow rivers, parched rivers, and animal filled plains. Africa is rich in animals, right? Now, Derek says, we often accept violence among animals, beast against beast, which means animals fight against each other, they kill each other. That's like natural and instinctive, right? But upright animals, that is, humans who walk upright and pride themselves as being godlike, use that supposed superiority to justify cruelty. In their attempt to play gods, these humans, either black or white, these humans, they become frenzied, they become mad and brutal as wild beasts. It's just like that the whites attack the blacks attack the whites. There is death everywhere. Everyone is delirious, mad, acting in a frenzied manner. So humans become as frenzied and brutal as wild beasts. The wars they fight seem like twisted rituals, choreographed like dances to the rhythm of drums made from the dead. Corpses means dead. So you're literally dancing on the drums that are made by the dead. The flash, the flesh body, okay, the flesh of the dead. The native rebels think they are acting out of bravery, but it is really desperation, a terror of being wiped out. The Africans, of course, are in fear that the Britishers are going to wipe us out, so we have to rebel. This is not acting out of bravery, this is acting out of desperation. But do they have a choice? I'm asking you this question, not Derek. Do they have a choice? If someone is trying to be very bossy towards me, do I have a choice? Should I be quiet or should I rebel? Right? Meanwhile, Derek continues, colonizers claim peace. They claim peace, but only upper say. It's a peace soaked in blood, achieved only by silencing those who oppose them. These whites, they talk about peace soaked in blood. They achieve this peace only by slaughtering everyone who acts against them. And this takes us to the last stanza of A Far Cry from Africa. Here is where lines to remember or lines that made literature is there. Let's read the text. Again, brutish necessity wipes its hands upon the napkin of a dirty cause. Again, a waste of our compassion, as with Spain, the gorilla wrestles with the superman. I, who am poisoned with the blood of both, where shall I turn? Divided to the wane? I, who have cursed the drunken officer of a British rule, how choose between this Africa and the English tongue I love? Betray them both or give back what they give? How can I face such slaughter and be cool? How can I turn from Africa and live? Listen to the meaning now. Once again, ah, I return. Once again, violence is excused as something necessary, as if injustice can be justified by a broken ideology. It's like trying to wipe bloodied hands with a dirty napkin. Imagine your hands are already bloodied, and then you're trying to wipe your hands with a napkin which is already dirty. Blood plus dirt. An attempt only to clean things which are filthier, only to make things more filthier. Once again, Derek says, as with the Spanish Civil War, sympathy is wasted. In the eyes of prejudice, it is reduced to a grotesque battle, a dreadful battle, a wasteful battle, an ape against a superhuman. Apes here are like Africans, superhumans are here like Britishers. And then Derek says, I am poisoned by the heritage of both. He's actually cursing himself for having the blood of both Africa and Europe, both the colonizers and the colonized. My identity is torn down to the very blood in my veins. Which side am I supposed to take? I have fiercely condemned British imperialism. Let me tell you, Derek says, I'm against British imperialism, that reckless, often drunken force wielded by soldiers and officers. But at the same time, I love English language. How can I turn myself from English language, the language I deeply love, the language I write in? Derek says, if I take one side, I betray the other. How can I honor both of them when both of them are inside me? How can I criticize both of them when both of them are inside me? How can I stay calm in the face of such brutal history? And most painfully, Derek says, how can I abandon Africa and still go on living? Such a deep poem. You want to know a little more about Derek? Come, I'll tell you. Listen to the lines again, because of which we started this video at the first place. Please learn these lines by heart. I, who am poisoned with the blood of both, where shall I turn divided to the wane? Wow. Derek Walcott lived from 1930 to 2007, was a Nobel Prize winning poet and a playwright from St. Lucia in the Caribbean. St. Lucia is an island in Caribbean which was ruled by France and by British. Many African people lived here, they live here, they were brought here because of slavery, because of many other things, they were brought here. So yes, St. Lucia is where Derek was born. His family was of English, Dutch, and African descent. Wow, like, so much hybrid identity, you can say. And this is what reflects in his poetry, the complex colonial history of the island that he explores in his poetry. This makes Derek a very powerful voice in post colonial literature. And along with this poem, A Far Cry from Africa of 1962, other important works by Derek are, listen to the names: Dream on Monkey Mountain of 1967, it's a play. Omeros, which is a 1990 Homeric epic poem. And the next work is of 2007 named White Egrets. With this, I am done with the video of the day. I hope you liked it. I hope you loved the lines that we discussed today. You're going to make the most of it. Subscribe to our channel Vallath by Dr. Kalyani Vallath if you still haven't. And of course, you know me, I'm Heena from Team Vallath. Take very good care of yourself. Keep loving literature and learning it and embracing it into your life, into your hearts. Take care. Bye bye.